Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name's Justin. So I recently bought a Canon R6 Mark II. This was a massive upgrade for me because I was going from an $800 Canon 80D, which I'd bought from a guy at McDonald's years ago, and I've been using that camera to build my channel up to 100,000 subscribers. So I've been using it for all it was worth. But going into the new year, I wanted to get 4K, I wanted to get in-body image stabilization, I wanted 2 card slots, I wanted to have 10-bit color, I wanted log, I wanted to get rid of the freaking 30-minute record limit. There was a lot of things that I wanted a new camera to do. And it looked like the Canon R6 Mark II checked off all those boxes. So I was really excited. I finally got it in the mail, and it became pretty clear very quickly that it was actually making my life worse, so I decided to return it and get my $3,000 back. This video is not meant to rail against the camera itself because it's actually a good camera. It just turned out it wasn't good for me. Okay, so the first big downside of this camera is that it doesn't give you an all-eye option for your camera when recording video. It's IPB compression only. Now, this is actually important. It's not just some sort of random alphabet soup that only matters to nerds. This has real-life implications. Basically, all eye allows you to get an actual legitimate frame for every frame that your camera records. So if you set it to 30 frames a second, it takes 30 photos with an audio track, and there's your video. Meanwhile, IPB compression, which is what the camera uses, is a lot more complicated. It takes like an A and B frame, and then it does some math to figure out what frames would be in between those frames. That's an overly simplified version of what it does. Basically, it takes up less space on your SD card, but the penalty is that your computer program, your Premiere Pro or whatever you're using, it has to work harder to play that back in real time to allow you to edit it. I was having trouble even watching back the footage, let alone scrubbing around on the timeline and making lots of quick edits. My computer just could not handle it. So basically, I was forced to shoot an IPB light or use proxies the entire time. Neither of those are ideal. I want to get the maximum quality out of the camera that I can, and I don't want to have to use proxies because proxies bring their own problems. Another downside of the camera is that you only get 10-bit color in log. You don't get 10-bit color in the regular video formats, so just be aware of that. Something else to be aware of is that Sony has better object tracking. So if you do a lot of fancy B-roll where you've got a spinning platter with your camera going in and out in order to get some cool B-roll shots, well, the Sony camera will actually track that better than the Canon R6 Mark II. And the final downside is the lack of lenses. This is a brand new mount for Canon, and they've been slowly building out a bunch of lenses, which are great, but the problem is there's not enough of them. And Canon has made the whole situation worse by not allowing third-party lens manufacturers to use their autofocus system. So that means there is no Sigma 24-70 for the Canon system yet. Maybe Canon will allow that later, but right now they're being very anti-consumer with this move. So if I want a 24-70 zoom lens, which everybody wants to have in their camera bag, I only have one option, the Canon one. Meanwhile, if I take a look at the Sony offerings, they have 3. The one from Sony and then 2 third-party ones, all at 2.8. So this just gives you a whole lot more flexibility because you have 3 choices. You can compare them against each other. When you have 3 competitors, that brings prices down for everything on the used market. There's just more choice when it comes to lenses on the Sony without having to use any sort of adapter to use some sort of old lens that they don't make anymore, along with the price of the body, which is higher than what Panasonic is offering for something very similar. So yeah, all those things combined to make me a little bit frustrated, and I decided the $3,000 was worth more in my pocket versus on a camera that was slowing down my product workflow. So yeah, like I said in the beginning of the video, it's not a bad camera. It's got a ton of good features. It's still very much an awesome camera that might be worth it for you. I just found that it was making my life harder and it was slowing down my workflow. Maybe if I had a different computer or maybe this or that, it would have been the perfect camera, but this was not the perfect time. This was not the perfect situation. And for those reasons, I decided to return it. Just food for thought. Maybe it applies to you, maybe it doesn't. That's the video. Thanks for watching.